evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting. My name is Camilla Nelson, and I live with my family in Drammen and work as a teacher on a high school there. But I also work as a volunteer with Initiatives of Change Norway, and I am a board member of the International Council of IFC. And IFC is active in over 50 countries around the world. And since we are the ones who invited Ajmal to Norway these days, and have taken this initiative to have this meeting tonight, I want to take the chance to tell you a little bit about our work. IFC, Initiatives of Change, builds on this very simple idea. If you want to change the world, you got to start with yourself. And in order to try to be that change the world needs, IFC offers two simple practices. One, to take time in silence, in quiet, to listen within. As a believer, that means trying to find God's voice, God's way with my life. As a humanist, it would be listening to your conscience to find the way. We have 4 values we try to navigate by: absolute love, absolute honesty, absolute unselfishness, and absolute purity. And these 4 values you will find are common across the world, across our different faiths and cultures. So IFC is not a church, not a mosque, not a synagogue, or a congregation, nor a political party. It's not a substitute, alternative to any of these. IFC offers a value-based space to meet across culture, religion, and perspectives. IFC offers a challenge and invites us all to this experiment. Try to be the change you want to see in the world. Our work in Europe grew large after the 2 world wars Europe was the epicenter of. Hundreds of young Europeans took that challenge to try to be part of that change and reconciliation and trust building Europe so badly needed. With a huge sense of urgency, they left their studies and work, their security, their future, and their own ambitions to take part in this work. This sense of urgency, never again can this happen. And one example is a Norwegian, Jens Jonathan Nielsen. He's here with us somewhere tonight. He spent 5 years in Germany, followed by 5 years in Japan in the years after the war. As Europe was rebuilt and found its peace, a sense of urgency simmered out. Well, today Europe is again in a dangerous place, and its soul and values is at stake. In the East, Cold War is back, colder day by day. In the South, the wars of the Middle East and the terrible tragedy in the Mediterranean Sea, becoming a graveyard. Freedom, equality, and brotherhood, for whom? Well, for our Muslim brothers and sisters, and anyone who happens to look like one, sense of urgency is back. This is why we have been organizing these days in Norway with Ajmal Masroor, with the overall theme, how can we bridge the growing cultural and religious divides in the Norwegian society? The themes we have covered during his days here are role of faith in the contemporary society. What values can Islam contribute to the Norwegian society? This was in our house, in our center in Oslo. And then on Sunday we went to Jar menighet in Bærum and we talked about religious education in the secular society of today. How can we pass on what is most important to us to the next generation? And in the evening, Sunday evening, 22 of the imams and leaders from Norwegian mosques met in our center, both Sunnis and Shias, to discuss what can the mosques contribute to the Norwegian society. On Monday we went to Drammen and we were in high school, and the theme there was Islam's image, challenge and identity crisis for young Norwegian Muslims. Later on at the college university, we had a dialogue seminar with the theme Challenging Extremism. How can we create a counterculture to extremism? And now we have come to our last meeting here with the theme, Is Islam compatible to Europe? Well, I think we should explain why we've chosen this theme. We have taken our theme from a survey that was published in The Economist sometime in the beginning of February. And there they asked this question in several countries in Europe. They asked this question, is Islam compatible to Europe? Well, they didn't do this survey in Norway, but they did it in our neighbor country, Sweden. Sweden, where 5% of the population is Muslim. And 50% of the Swedish, in this survey, 50% answered that no, Islam does not have a place in Europe. And in Germany, 60% answered no, Islam does not have a place in Europe. So we thought maybe this is something a lot of us think, but we dare not say. So let's talk about it. So today we've called for a panel debate. It's kind of a contradiction to dialogue and trust building. And I thought of a theme or a saying we like in IFC, and that is, it's not who's right, but what is right. So we have a wise panel of 4 for you here, and an experienced chair of the debate. So we trust and expect that this evening will be a worthy and blessed end to these 4 good days of dialogue and sharing. So now I'm going to give the word to the chair, Vebjørn Horsfjord, and he's associated with the Faculty of Theology and has taught in interfaith studies, focusing on religion, meeting and interreligious dialogue, and religion, conflict and reconciliation. Horsfjord is also a senior advisor and former Secretary General of the European Council of Religious Leaders, Religions for Peace, and a director of the International Institute for Peace and Reconciliation, Life and Peace Institute. Please.
Thank you, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you all to Litteraturhuset tonight to address a topic that might have raised some eyebrows when you saw it first, but that is really worth addressing with a sense of urgency that Camilla talked about. We will, in just a few seconds, give the floor to our speakers. It's my great honor to introduce the panel. Our chief speaker, main guest, is, as we heard, Imam Ajmal Masroor, who is a British Imam of Bangladeshi origin, a TV journalist and politician. He regularly leads Friday prayers in London at 4 different mosques. He is also a member of the Muslim Council of Britain. He works actively against extremism, and that has earned him death threats from Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda's subsidiary in Somalia. He also works actively against the practice of forced marriage and in a lot of other fields, and is a leading voice of mainstream Islam in Europe. After Imam Masroor has spoken, we'll have 3 respondents. And they are, first here, Espen Ottosen, the president of the board of the think tank Skaperkraft, whose aim is to further reflection and debate based on classical Christian thinking. He is also director of information at Norwegian Lutheran Mission, Norsk-Luthersk Misjonssamband, and an active contributor to public debate in Norway. Next is Linda Alzghari, the director of the think tank Minotenk, which provides a platform and environment for reflection, discussion, and action on public policies pertaining to the situation of minorities in Norway. She is a Muslim and an active contributor to public debate. And Ervin Kohn, he also regularly contributes to debates in written and spoken media in Norway when minority issues are on the agenda. He is the president of the Jewish community in Oslo and also the deputy head of the Norwegian Center Against Racism, Antirasistisk Center. What we'll do, in short, is we'll first give the floor to Imam Masroor, who will speak for about 20 minutes. And after that, each of the respondents will be given about 10 minutes to respond. And after that, we'll have a discussion, conversation, debate within the panel before we gradually open up to include all of you in the discussion so that you can ask questions and we can have a conversation between the panel and the listeners. So without further ceremony, I give the floor to Imam Masroor.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for coming to listen to us this evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll begin in the name of God, the most merciful, the most beneficent, and by greeting you with the Islamic greeting, Assalamu alaikum, may peace be on you all. Is Islam compatible to Europe, is the question for our discussion, debate tonight. The above question has dominated the current Muslim presence in Europe for a long time. Do Muslims truly belong in Europe, and can Islam even be compatible with Europe, is the question. Muslims are being called all sorts of names. The fifth column, enemy within, anti-European, and so on. We're witnessing an unprecedented level of hostility, mistrust, and even violence leading to fatalities in the heart of Europe today. I've lived in Europe for more than 40 years now. I have faced racism in my childhood. I have never experienced such level of hatred towards Muslims and Islamophobia as now. A war of attrition is in the air, and this frightens me, not just me, but most people around the world. It was not that long ago that a similar air of suspicion and hatred led to the massacre of millions. Millions of people were killed in Europe. Our Jewish brothers and sisters were put to death. If we are not very careful, in my view, such carnage may take place at our doorstep and under our watch again. I would like to do something about it. In fact, I would like to do everything in my power to prevent this from ever happening. From this catastrophe unfolding right in front of us. The question is, what is it and what is at the core of this hostility, and how can we avert a potential bloodbath if one was to predict one happening? I believe it is based on a lack of real information about Islam, as well as the scarcity of authentic manifestation of Muslim lifestyle. In this particular presentation, I would like to propose that not only is Islam compatible with Europe, in fact, Europe is more Islamic than most Muslim countries in the world today. Some may find my statement uncomfortable, even provocative. However, my intention is not simply to create discomfort, but rather to illustrate my hypothesis by referring to authentic sources that I believe are sacred to me and sacred to Muslims. I would like to take you on a journey. My theory is based on a comparison between European values as found in the lives of people and institutions across Europe with Islamic values that are found in the original teachings in the Quran and in the life of the Blessed Prophet Muhammad. I would like to outline 10 reasons why Islam is totally European and Europe is more Islamic than most Muslim countries in the world today. Reason number 1, Islam is based on knowledge and certainty. I would like to cast your mind as back as year 610 AD, when Muhammad was at the depth of meditation in a cave in the mountain several kilometers away from his hometown in the city of Mecca. He was enjoying the solace and tranquility of the mountains and seeking answers to many questions that were constantly in his mind. It was under this deep quest for truth that his journey as a prophet began and the first revelation came. The first word of life-changing experience for Muhammad and first word of revelation for the entire humanity came to Muhammad in the word read. The commandment of God was not to fight or kill or even to pray or fast, but it was simply to read. The entire religion of Islam is based on knowledge, steeped in intellectual endeavor. Enlightenment is at the core of this faith. Those who claim to be Muslims must base their faith and practices on a rational and intellectual footing. Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said that the sleep of a knowledgeable person is better than the entire night's worship of an ignorant person. In Islam, there is no room for superstition or voodoo practices. It is through knowledge and critical thinking, as well as exploration and pondering, that one truly is able to discover God. Europe, on the other hand, left its dark past by embracing the journey of enlightenment through knowledge and arrived at the pinnacle of civilization. Knowledge as the bedrock of progress is what connects Europe and Islam. More Muslims come to Europe today to further their studies than go to any other Muslim countries in the world. The seat of learning and research is based here in the heart of Europe. It was not that long ago when Islamic civilization spread far and wide from Indonesia to Spain through intellectual endeavors, knowledge, art, creativity, science, and all of these and more disciplines were actual hallmarks of Muslim lifestyle. Historians and experts have noted that it is and it was the early Muslim contribution to science that laid the foundation for many modern scientific discoveries and technological advancement. So, ladies and gentlemen, I make the connection between knowledge and the yearning of knowledge in Europe and yearning of knowledge in the religion of Islam as the same. And therefore, both are perfectly compatible. Number 2, Islam is based on justice and fairness for all people. In Islam, fairness and justice is considered to be the closest manifestation of godliness in humans. God requires us to never sway from justice because of a simple reason. No self-interest or dislike of other people should make us do anything but justice. Justice is the cornerstone, sacrosanct, and any violation is violation against God. The Blessed Prophet devoted all his life in search of justice, securing justice for the underdogs in his society. He started a movement in his early 20s called the Alliance of Virtue, in Arabic, Hilf al-Fudul, with its primary aim to avert war, restore social justice in society, especially for the widows and the divorced woman, orphan children, the needy, the poor and the desperate. Today in the Muslim world, Muslim majority countries, there is no real opportunity for justice due to widespread corruption, nepotism and cronyism. Yes, I understand, and we all know that. However, in Islam, justice is godliness. Europe has legally binding democratic and pan-European treaties that places the greatest responsibility and duty of impartiality on the judiciary today, to uphold the law and have sufficient checks and balances to maintain systems that would put right any miscarriage of justice. It guarantees human rights, equality in the eyes of law, and safety and security for all its citizens. This is the example, in my view, of Islamic legal system in action, and can be found today in Europe, but sadly is missing from the Muslim world. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the reason why I say Europe is perfectly compatible to Islam. Number 3, the primary condition, the primary objectives of Islam, Islamic law rather, are compatible with the primary objectives of European law. The primary objectives of Islamic law, Sharia, as we know, are to protect life, intellect, property, family, faith and dignity of all people. This was the main reason why Islamic civilization was able to reach faraway lands and people from as far afield as South China Sea and as deep as the English Channel, not that far away from where I come from. Today, the word Sharia has become erroneously synonymous with barbaric killing, amputations and mutations by rogue elements, including the nutters of ISIS and many other brutal regimes of the Middle East. This is a total desecration of a legal system that evolved over centuries, serving justice for millions throughout time and contained the collective wisdom of some of the most intellectual people and mind earth had ever seen. Today, Muslims are no longer the custodians of this sacred legal philosophy. Muslim majority countries have failed to provide the very basic security of life to their citizens due to many complex reasons, and I'm not here to justify any of them. But the biggest one, my dear brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, would be the reign of despotic and illegitimate regimes in the Muslim world. In Europe today, the primary objective of Sharia has been meticulously, if inadvertently, implemented into the legal system. And I want you to note this. Everyone has access to law. Everyone has access to law enforcement agencies. And everyone is innocent until proven guilty. These are cardinal Islamic principles, dating back to the time of the Blessed Prophet, as back as 1400 years ago. Everyone's life, intellect, property, family, faith and dignity are sacred today in Europe, just like Islam says it should be. That is why so many Muslims from all over the Muslim world flee from their home countries and seek asylum and protection in the heart of Europe. They know in Europe they can live peacefully and be a good citizen and a brilliant Muslim. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the reason why I believe Europe is perfectly compatible to Islam and Islam is totally compatible to Europe. Number 4, Christians and Jews are entitled with our God-given honorable title called people of the book. Respect and acceptance of people, even if they are different in faith, race, language and culture, is the biggest part of Islamic teaching. Did you know 40% of the Quran is taken by Moses? 15% of the Quran is taken by Jesus. 10% of the Quran is taken by Abraham. And less than 3% of the Quran is taken by Muhammad. If Christians and Jews are given that honorable title in the Quran, it is not just by word, it is by example. In the Quran, God addresses the Christians and the Jews as honorable people, people of the book, whose lives must always be respected and guaranteed and protected, property, intellect, family, faith and dignity at all costs. It is recorded that when the Romans threatened the monastery of St. Catherine's in Sinai Mountains, Prophet Muhammad sent his personal guarantee and made it a condition for the Muslims to come until the Day of Judgment, that Sinai will always be protected by Muslims and shall remain the religious and moral duty of Muslims to make sure it is never desecrated. In Europe today, it is not only the churches that decorate the skylines, but mosques are too, opening on a regular basis. The people of Europe are extremely tolerant and welcoming enough to accept the emergence of mosques in their neighborhoods. Muslims are not institutionally discriminated against, and their religious needs are not curtailed. This European value is also found in Islam, as the Prophet himself has reported to have given allowance to anyone who wants to worship. He prohibited anyone from destroying and desecrating churches or synagogues. He made mutual agreements with Christians and Jews who wish to live in peace with him. However, nowadays Muslims cannot worship freely in their own Muslim countries without the regimes and the political interferences of those dictators and despots. Muslims have flocked to Europe to enjoy the religious freedom it offers. Therefore, Europe and Islam are not only compatible, but their destinies are mutually inclusive. Number 5, human rights and human dignity are two inseparable principles found in Islam and in Europe. Human rights and human dignity is inseparable, and they're both found in Europe, ladies and gentlemen. Every human being is born free and should never be subjugated. Every human being is born with rights to equality, and no one should ever take that away. Every human being must be treated with dignity regardless of his or her social status, religious merit or economic condition. These are some of the key principles the Blessed Prophet taught his followers. In today's Muslim world, these values have eroded away. Human rights are violated every day by the state security apparatus. Human beings are treated based on how much money they have and how ostentatious they appear. Muslims are deeply affected by the inhuman socio-economic condition they face on a daily basis in the Muslim majority countries. Europe, on the other hand, has become the champion of human rights, and rightly so. Many Muslims have arrived at the doors of Europe seeking political asylum and have been granted full status within a very short period of time. Europe welcomes thousands of refugees fleeing wars and persecution from many Muslim countries. Throughout the recent years, the hospitality Muslims have enjoyed in Europe have been incomparable to the harsh and brutal treatment Muslims receive in the Muslim majority country at the hands of their government. Therefore, Muslims find dignity of their faith, dignity of their person, and protection of their religion in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the reason why I believe Europe is perfectly compatible and Islam is perfectly compatible to Europe. Number 6, moderation is the main trait of Islam. God explicitly states in the Quran that this religion and its adherents are people of moderation. The Prophet in his life condemned those who became extreme in their religiosity or became rejectionist. Yet today extremism proliferates in all parts of the world, especially the Muslim world. People who claim to be Muslims perpetrate extreme acts of terror and violence in the name of Islam. Suicide bombing, beheading of non-Muslims, taking hostage, hijacking, shooting to kill are all attributed to extremism led by Muslims. These are despicable acts in every religion, including Islam. They claim to do this in the name of God. No God would ever sanction such activities. Murder and mayhem, definitely not. If they do it to go to heaven, forget about going to heaven. Prophet Muhammad said they will not even smell heaven. If they do it in the name of Islam, there is no sanction in such activities in Islam. Such barbarism is not sanctioned by Islam. If they do it in the name of Muslims, no sane Muslim in the world will ever support such vile acts. Europe provides the perfect space for moderation to proliferate, ladies and gentlemen. In Europe, everyone is free to pursue whatever one's religion, spiritual and aesthetic aspirations are. The majority of Europeans welcome moderation in most things in life. The political discourse always veers to the center ground. From the left to the right, political discourse and governments are often formed for the center ground. The ugly heads of racism and Islamophobia do rise every so often, but The majority of Europeans embrace the middle ground, and they always fight against such racism, such Islamophobia. Islam is the religion of the middle path, as stated in the Quran. Europe's future and Islam's future are intertwined in the path of moderation. Europe is more Islamic than most Muslim countries, as I've said before, and therefore, ladies and gentlemen, in this moderate journey, path of middle path, we are compatible, mutually compatible. Number 7, Islam calls on Muslims to be socially responsible. The Blessed Prophet is reported to have said that he who does not show care and concern for his fellow human being is not even a Muslim. This places a tremendous duty and responsibility for Muslims to be socially active, to influence positive change in their society. It starts from helping the neighbor, to being involved in anti-drugs campaign, from volunteering one's time in charitable work, to lobbying the government to change policies, and most importantly, changing one's personal self to become better. Muslims are taught by the Blessed Prophet to be engaged and involved in society. Isolation and ghetto mentality is antithesis to true Islamic lifestyle. The Prophet said, "He who sleeps with his or her full stomach while their neighbor sleeps hungry is not even a Muslim." Muslims must play an active role to create harmony and prosperity in the society. European civil society institutions are some of the best examples of how individuals and groups are habitually involved in social and welfare activities. People usually organize themselves on common concerns and join hands on issues that inspire them. This culture of cooperation is both Islamic and European. God says in the Quran, "Cooperate together in that which is good and virtuous, and do not cooperate together in that which is evil and shameful." Muslim societies have lost the spirit of creating and sustaining civil society institutions. However, in Europe today, Muslims are increasingly becoming more involved in every aspect of European life. This is because Islam is fully compatible and Europe is the natural home for Muslims. Number 8, Islam proposes political leadership should always emerge from people directly. In Islam, there is no religious or spiritual hierarchy. No one is born with the right to rule. God has not given the divine right for a particular class or a family to rule ever. Leadership of any country or people should reflect the people, and people must have the right to stand for leadership, to elect and unelect their government, and to hold them directly accountable. Islam mandates that the leaders must serve the interest of the people and never use their offices for personal grace and benefit. And unjust rulers, including amassing wealth and undue influences. The Prophet condemned the unjust rulers as the worst people and warned them for being doubly accountable on the Day of Judgment, to themselves and of course to the people they lead. Yet, almost all the rulers in the Muslim majority countries are corrupt to the core. Have been squandering money from the state coffers for years, run brutal fiefdom, giving scant regard to people's rights. European democratic governance, on the other hand, is closest to Islamic ideals of how a society should be governed, how government should run and operate. There are elected leaders, a constitution, rule of law, independent civil services, non-politicized judiciary, impartiality of security apparatus. These are some of the key features of democracy that are enshrined in Europe today. And guess what? These are found in Islamic literature, Islamic legal philosophy, and the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Muslims find European political system the perfect vehicle for pursuing of material and spiritual happiness. Number 9, Islam emboldens freedom of speech by placing personal moral responsibility. We do not have the right to say anything we like without consequences. We cannot in word or deed be racist, xenophobic or anti-Semitic. We have the right to speak freely, but we have to be aware of how our words may offend other people. To be sensitive and sensible is what the Blessed Prophet advised his followers. God strictly frowns upon slandering, gossiping, backbiting, as these things destroy people individually and society collectively. Unchecked freedom of speech will inevitably destroy peace, cohesion, and mutual respect. The right of the media and scrutinizing bodies to express, report and account freely is indispensable for any healthy society and for democracy and freedom to flourish. However, insulting and being insensitive to is totally contradictory to challenging and holding accountable people of power, institution and public offices. Recently, in one of the newspapers, I saw majority of the Norwegian people oppose unchecked freedom to offend. They do not support our right to offend. They support the right to free speech, but they feel that offending others isn't our right. In Europe today, freedom of speech is enshrined, but there are laws that protect people, especially minorities, from being abused. Racism and anti-Semitism have been made illegal precisely for that reason. Hiding behind freedom of speech and having a free-for-all attack on Muslims is not a European value. It is counter to reason and civility. In Europe, no one will escape the legal process if they are found to be marginalizing or unfairly attacking people. Muslims find this truly Islamic and prefer to live in Europe than face the racism in many Muslim countries they see with their own eyes. And finally, number 10, Islam is a religion of renewal and renaissance. Prophet Muhammad advised his followers to renew their understanding and interpretation of their faith and practices in the context of time and place. This is based on the primary premise that Islam is a universal religion and for all times. It does not have a specific culture, but embraces local cultures and customs of people who embrace the faith, as long as these cultures and customs do not contradict the essential features of Islam. A person from China can be a Muslim, a person from Norway can be a Muslim. They can share common faith and practices that remain culturally very different. This diversity and multiculturalism that is found in the teachings of Islam is missing from the Muslim majority countries today, but is flourishing in Europe. Islamic scholars and experts are responsible for leading the Renaissance, but today the Muslim theologians have been reduced to only